Hi everyone, and welcome to Pause for Self-Care with Di. I have actually recorded this. This is the third time that I've tried to record this. The first time I was too emotional. The second time I blabbed on too much. So I'm hoping that this is third time lucky and I'm going to get it right. So join me. Okay, so this is part two of my life update. Why we were so AWOL and what was going on. This one is a little bit of history as to what happened. I might have to break it up into two parts, so let's see how we go. Back in 2011, we had a new neighbor move into our complex. Little did we know this was a complete psychopath. Word used by other neighbors in the complex. It started out, he was very loud. He still is very loud. There's constant banging, constant shouting, constant abusiveness towards animals and people. Just generally somebody who I believe desperately needs therapy and needs to get his mental health sorted out. So yeah, if you do happen to know who this person is, try to get them to see a therapist. It's vital for them and people they have interactions with. So yeah, let me start off with our first incident. So on the 3rd of June 2012, it was Comrades Day. We were going out to watch the Comrades. My husband was already at the Comrades. We were home about to leave to go and watch Comrades with a friend alongside the road. My son took our little dog out for a walk. So because we weren't taking him along to spend a very long time alongside the road, and Blue was a little howler, and we were actually teaching him to howl. So when we arrived home, he'd go, "Wah, wah, wah." Very cute. And he was doing this, and this neighbor decided he was going to shout and scream at my son and tell him to stop abusing Blue. If he didn't hear Blue's howling before, I don't know how, but yeah, this was just a thing we were teaching him to do because he did it and was very cute. And after shouting at my son, he got in his car and raced up the road like a lunatic. Yeah, next incident, my children were playing a card game on my son's bed in his room. Uno cards, different cards. And I was watching the TV. They weren't really loud. I mean, I didn't have to moan at them or anything. They were just laughing and playing. I was watching the arrival of Will and Kate's new little boy, their firstborn, at I was waiting for him to come out the hospital. Yes, I'm an avid royal watcher. And this psychopath decided he's standing outside my son's window and shouting at my children. I called my husband, who was still on his way home from work. And when he arrived home, he went downstairs to go and speak to this moron and tell him not to shout at the children. And he said to my husband he's going to put him in hospital. Yeah, it's crazy. I was going to fetch my children at school the one day, and he decided he's going to try and run me off the road. My friend witnessed this, and she said to me, "You know what? You need to complain to the complex owner." My husband actually works for the majority owner of the complex. That's why we haven't moved. Um, and yeah, so I wrote a letter to him. He forwarded the letter to the owner of the complex, to the owner of the unit, who only owns one unit, and they forwarded it to him. And then he ended up shouting and screaming at me, because they didn't keep that letter private. And yeah, I feel they should have, and should have just spoken to him, because I wasn't the only one complaining about him in the complex. But anyway, such is life. It happened. Um, I just continued to take the abuse, basically. When I contacted the owner via phone call, because he was shouting and screaming, and playing loud music and carrying on, he turned around and he said to me, "You're a crazy, stupid bitch. Nobody likes you." One morning, we woke up to shouting and screaming downstairs, and he had been, it actually had been going the whole night. Him and his current girlfriend at that time. It was my birthday. I dropped my children off at school, came home. They were in primary school at that time, junior and senior primary. Um, Came home, and I witnessed him throwing an iron at his then girlfriend. Um, Police were called, um, basically gave them a warning, and did nothing. What I don't understand is the amount of the times that the police were called and still nothing ever got done. On one occasion, when the police were called, I actually went out to speak to the police, to tell them that this had been going on the entire day, and it's not appropriate for children to be living in this environment. The police said, "Yes, we know he's a repeat offender, and as a woman and child, you need to be careful of him." That was back then. My neighbors know that I am a volunteer for animal welfare, working specifically with cats, feral cats, feeding cats, etc. And one day there was a rescue needed in our complex. I went to rescue a 8-week-old kitten who was bitten by a dog. I spoke to the organization I worked under at that time as a volunteer. They suggested I keep him inside. The rule, with pets that are rescued, you actually have to keep them for 2 weeks, giving a possibility for their owners to claim them within those 2 weeks. And then they can go up for adoption. So, yeah, I looked after this little guy, and the person who contacted me in the complex to say that this little guy had been found and I needed to come and rescue him, he told the moron that I had the kitten because he had known about his 2 cats dying. Basically, yeah, so he came to knock on my door. I came outside. I would never let him inside. And he told me he wanted to adopt the kitten and he wanted the kitten now. I said to him the kitten was definitely not his. It's 8 week old, and his cats were adults already. He told me to my face that he rode over his cat, put it in the garage, and left it to die. He said it was what God wanted it to be. He was drunk at the time when he rode the cat over, and then he buried it in the garden. The other one, he had two that he got together, and the other one was also killed by him. Animal abuse really gets to me. He also had a dog that he never looked after. The poor dog used to run up and down in the garden continuously, up and down and up and down. And we used to talk to him at the fence just to give him a little bit of attention that he never got. He also had another cat. It was always outside, and he actually came up and threw a full bottle of water at him in front of me on my driveway outside my garage one day, and I told him that's not behavior that I will have. I will report him for animal abuse. Anyway, on the occasion he came to ask about demanding the kitten, I explained the procedure to him, and he said to me, well, you're a crazy, stupid bitch and nobody likes you. Sound familiar? There have been so many incidents with this person that I actually can't count. But we wrote a letter to the owner of the complex again in 2015, because there was a bloody brawl outside at about 11 o'clock midnight, somewhere around there. He had apparently his brother living with him at that stage. They were having a huge argument. There was a huge bang. Blood all over. The police were called. Everybody in the complex was actually standing outside witnessing this fight. They broke windows. There was actually blood on the wall outside his garage window, and it stayed there for about 3 months that he didn't clean it up. It was shocking. The window was still in disrepair after 3 months. The body corporate did nothing. The owner of his unit did nothing. When I contacted the ombudsman for complexes, he said to me after that incident he should have been evicted because there were previous incidents and previous complaints, and he should have received warnings legally, but nothing gets done. Everybody seems to protect this guy. After repeated incidents, last year, in 2019 it escalated. 2019, I was leaving to fetch my son at school, and he pulled. You see, what actually happens is I've got to reverse out my driveway and then reverse into the road and drive up the road. On that day, I reversed out. He pulled in front of me, pulled out into the road, preventing me from going up the road, and started to shout and scream at me. He was clearly drunk. He had somebody in the car with him. I put my hand on the hooter eventually because the neighbor in the house next door is a member of the CPF, and I thought it was, if he heard the hooter, he'd do something about it. But when my hooter went off, he drove up the road. I contacted my husband to tell the owner of the complex. Once again, nothing was done. After that, I heard that he had been doing the same thing or similar things to other women in the complex. Last year, by then when I drive out, I wait, and I drive out in such a way that he can't drive in front of me. So I drove out, started to get onto the road. He was shouting at me yet again. On the road, he drove past me and tried to hammer his car into my car, drove up the road past the schools, stopped at the senior school, got out of his car, put his hands on his hips like to threaten me further. I managed to escape him. I went to the police. I made an affidavit at the police saying that this incident occurred. Yeah, they didn't advise me to make a charge or anything like that. I don't know why. But that was one of the things that triggered me to get a protection order against him. I had been in contact with his foster parents who own the unit downstairs, telling them about the constant banging, shouting, screaming, abusiveness, shouting at me from downstairs, saying at night, saying, "You're a stupid, crazy bitch, and I'm gonna take you outside and fuck you up." This is what I've had to endure. It has been really difficult on my mental health. As somebody who grew up with childhood abuse, it is not easy, and because of him, I'm on anxiety medication for panic attacks. Because of him trying to run me off the road, I actually had 3 panic attacks within the space of 24 hours. Yeah, which was horrendous. If you look at my channel, I do have videos on panic attacks and how to help, and that's actually shortly after I had those panic attacks. Yeah, my son will be adding a video on his channel. I'm not sure as to when or what he will be saying yet, but he will explain what happened with him and our court process there. And yeah, in my next video, I will explain what happened and how I got my protection order, and how important it is to actually have support when you are dealing with somebody who is abusive. Thank you so much for watching. I will add more about what happened in my second video and explain to you about that process of getting a protection order and yeah, the continuation of abuse. But that just is a brief background history for you. So please do hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when my next video will be up, so I can tell you more about this. Thank you so much for joining me.